All right, welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon reviews. 4 reviews up this week. The first of which is UnMetal. So we were fortunate to speak to the developer of this game, Fran, just a couple of days at time of recording, and on Friday, in fact. So, very fresh in terms of time. But in case you missed that broadcast, UnMetal is essentially a Metal Gear parody. And not just in terms of like aping the storyline tropes of Metal Gear and the writing. No,
but yes, hence the name.
Yeah, I mean, this is tactical espionage action of a sort.
Also, to be clear, we are talking about pre-solid Metal Gear.
Yeah, it's more akin to say Metal Gear 2 or Metal Gear on the MSX or NES, per your Poison, I suppose. I'd say like closer to like a mixture of Metal Gear 1 and 2. Because like it's got some stuff that you'd find in Metal Gear 2. You got some stuff that wasn't. Like, for example, harkening back to the interview, there's no radar here. Fran mentioned that he had a distaste for the radar in Metal Gear Solid 2.
I mean, even in regular Metal Gear, you could get a lot of or Metal Gear 2, you could get a lot of information from the radar.
Well, that's because
about people in the 8 screens surrounding the screen you're on.
Well, that's because the alert system was tweaked for Metal Gear 2. Because
it was important because enemies could also remember that you were there if you went off screen.
Yeah. So there was a reason why the radar system was introduced in Metal Gear 2. That's not really here. Like, once again, I mentioned on Friday that when guards are off screen, you'll get a general sense of where they are in terms of like there's a red dot that will showcase the direction they're facing, so you don't get the trip up. That was a bit of an occurrence in Metal Gear 1. It's like you appear on screen and the guards can, just see you. Not sure how much in the MSX version, but I definitely remember that in the NES version. Like, granted, it was easier to turn off the alert system because there was just one level instead of the 2 levels in Metal Gear 1 for the NES. That being said, this game is on the whole a bit simpler than Metal Gear Solid's stealth mechanics. There's not the amount of information, but there's also not the amount of tricks you can do. There's still a fair amount, don't get me wrong. Like, you can still do, punching a object and making noise and attracting a guard thing, or you can throw a coin and catch a guard's attention, which is more akin to, say, Tenchu than Metal Gear. Like, maybe like Metal Gear Solid 2. Like, it's been a while, but I definitely remember like Metal Gear Solid 1. You didn't really, there was definitely less of a attract the guard. But, I remember that more in Tenchu. But also, after you subdue a guard, you can pick up his body in order to make sure other guards don't get alerted. And there is an incentive to
dead or unconscious bodies tend to be a indicator of things not being entirely normal.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the games where the bodies don't vanish. Once again, that was one of the pioneering things I remember with Metal Gear Solid 2. You were able to pick up bodies and you were able to stuff them in lockers and stuff. Mainly because it was a showcase of the PlayStation 2 at the time. It was something you could not do in Metal Gear Solid 1, at least not the initial version. Twin Stakes, that's something that got brought in. Look, there's just going to be a lot of parallels to Metal Gear Solid here because, well, look at the thing.
Yeah, if you do know what Metal Gear or the original looked like, you know what we're talking about. And if you didn't, it looked a lot like this, but maybe with slightly less color depth in the sprite work.
Yeah. And I know it's a mark of a good game when I'm always disappointed that I didn't get enough time to play through it. But sometimes that happens. I got about 3 chapters in of a 10-chapter game. So I'm not exactly sure how many mechanics might have been missed. But I think I got most of the core. One of the things introduced into the mix that's unique to this is the recovery mechanic, or rather, you've got to keep your enemies alive. But there's this whole encounter with this doctor lady, and Mr. Fox here pledges to not kill any enemy soldiers, and this is right around the time he gets a handgun, which is lethal force. Prior to this, all of your, let's say, ordnance was of the non-lethal variety.
You can use lethal force, but should you?
Well, in general, yes. In this game, or rather, you have to. That is to say, if you shoot a soldier with a bullet, you have to use a health pack in order to save him. And if you let him die, it's game over. It's mission failed. Or I guess since we're talking about, Metal Gear.
That's actually really strict on the. Less moral choice and more moral. You agreed to this. Now do it.
Yeah, this isn't Thief. So you have to keep the soldiers alive. Unconscious, sure. What's a little brain damage between enemies? But
yeah, real life advisory. If you're unconscious for more than a very short amount of time, you're probably not going to be 100% okay.
No, you're not. But yeah, like I said, this game has a fair amount of depth, but don't expect anything like a direct reference to Snake's very famous cardboard box. At least not from what I played. Maybe that showed up in a later chapter. That's kind of that's kind of the limitations of playtime here showing. Anyway, so there is an incentive to playing stealthily, and that is if you manage to take down a guard without them noticing you, you get experience points. And if you get enough experience points, you go up a level. And when you gain a level, you gain a perk. Like the level 2 perk was I don't remember what the other one was, but it was being able to punch quicker or knock down the guard faster. I went for that because that's the way I was playing. Like I said, even after you get a gun, it's advised to keep playing, keep using your fists or your slingshot that shoots depleted uranium balls. Granted, I didn't find those particularly useful since it took 3 shots to knock down a guard, especially after I got my upgrade. Like it was just quicker to knock down a guard. Now, I will say that hit detection is a bit iffy here, mainly because it it does have the Metal Gear orientation going on. That is to say, you can only hit in 4 directions and not 8. So, you might be a little out of alignment with the hitboxes. And suddenly, what you think is a hit is a whiff. And that happened to me more times than I like to have happened. But honestly, I think the principal flaw of this game, well, it's the same as the series it's mocking or making fun of or satirizing, however you want to put it. And that is the gameplay is very stop and go. Like I said, that is totally keeping in line with a Metal Gear, especially a Metal Gear Solid game. Like where you will get hit with a gameplay section and then, cutscene, 20-minute fucking conversation, either with multiple people or, getting lectured about nuclear fucking missiles. It's like, I get it, Kojima. You were worried about proliferation of nuclear devices in the 90s.
In fairness, it was pretty justified. Right.
Nothing that, I'll stay right here and now. If you're looking for philosophical depth, go play an actual Metal Gear Solid game, or or Metal Gear. Maybe not Metal Gear Revengeance. But
that has philosophy, just no subtlety.
Fair. I mean, well, I'd say extra unsubtle. Like Kojima isn't really subtle with his views.
But Metal Gear Rising is like literally Garth Marenghi's school of I know writers who use subtext and they're all cowards.
It's almost October. I should watch Dark Place again. Yeah. Anyway, that like I said, this game is full on parody. It's
not as parody as those friggin' Santa Claus ones that Naka played the other year for Christmas.
Merry Gear Solid.
So less parody than that.
I'd actually say it's around. It's about the same. Except without the Christmas angle. It's very postmodern, Adult Swimish kind of satire humor. Like, it's either the kind of thing that you're going to click with, or you're going to be really annoyed with very quickly. Like, you know, like there's a running joke about where Jesse Fox got a noose from, or the fact that he got captured. It's the A-Team. You know, he was arrested for a crime he didn't commit and put in a maximum security stockade. Seriously, this is literally the premise of the A-Team. Like, and like I said, if you're not amused with that kind of humor, once again, I won't say seek elsewhere, but be prepared to throw down the B button a lot, because you can skip cutscenes. Like here's the problem I had with UnMetal here. It's even more obnoxious with the stop and go stuff than Metal Gear is. Because like the whole thing is being framed as a police report. Like it's got Jesse talking on two levels, no less. Like in case you didn't get that this was a postmodern thing. Like, you know, initially you're introduced to the fact that he's talking to, I think, a military police officer, and giving a debriefing on that. And then, like, a chapter or two later, he reveals he's talking about that police report while driving a fucking station wagon, talking to his girlfriend. This is what you're getting into, people. Like I said, it's the kind of thing that tickles a particular type of funny bone. Like, but anyway, so with that framing in mind, everything you do, everything you pick up, Jesse is narrating to the officer. And that does come up in the comedy, like in the sewer level. There's a point where you build a bridge, and he picks it up. And then the guy goes, wait, what happened to the bridge? And he's like, I picked it up. You didn't mention that. And he's like, I didn't think I had to state something so obvious. So every time you use the bridge, I should put it down that you picked it up. He's like, yes. Once again, these are the jokes. A lot of meta humor, of course. But the difference between Metal Gear and UnMetal here is like you could get those conversations for the mundane stuff, but they were optional. Like, I picked up an item. Snake would not call the colonel to talk about it unless it was a very plot critical thing. Like if you picked up a machine gun,
I'm pretty sure you could have him ask about some pretty dumb things, but yeah.
That's what I'm getting at here. You know, those were optional. Here it's mandatory. And thus it increases the pace-breaking nature of the Metal Gear commentary problem. But it's even worse here because it's happening even more often. And once again, everything is skippable, but you can't stop it from not happening. And that is the biggest problem I had with the game overall. You know, it's like there's like when you're more chatty than a Metal Gear Solid game, that's a problem. You know, not a deal breaker by any measure, but I found myself just getting more annoyed by the commentary than I perhaps should have been, because it's like, I kind of want to go and punch the guards over there instead of listening to Jesse's latest quip. But like I said, I don't think it's that detrimental if you can tolerate it. Once again, if it's something that infuriates it, it puts you off the Metal Gear franchise, maybe stick to Splinter Cell or Hitman. Like, in terms of in terms of its graphics, it does a pretty reasonable job of imitating the old MSX Metal Gear games, though you'll be seeing a lot of stuff that you wouldn't have seen on the on the MSX2, even like the most advanced version of the MSX2. Like, it's not it's not a 1-to-1 like let's recreate the whole MSX aesthetic. Like, some of the lighting looks way too good for a computer of the 80s to the early 90s. Like, but that's nothing I have a problem with. I know there are purists of this kind of thing. But it's like, I don't remember it coming up in the interview that he was going like specifically to match the MSX 1-to-1 here. Like, you can also see it in like things like the bosses. They play out more like Street Fighter 2 in terms of like introducing and everything. Still, it's a good looking game. Sound, now that was the interesting part. Because if you recall, Fran is from Barcelona, Spain, and I probably should have delved more into the voice acting now that I think about it, because it was surprisingly good. Maybe not amazing, but it's a lot better than like I would expect a Spanish solo dev to have provided, at least on the surface. You know what I mean? So
generally, yeah.
So major kudos there. Music, less distinct, if I'm being honest. I think that's about what I got for the baselines in terms of the gameplay and the contents and all that's important business. So how did it all come together? Once again, fairly well. Though, like I said, even though it's a satirization of Metal Gear, it beats its own path. Also, at points, this game felt more like a point-and-click adventure game than a stealth action title. To give a good example of this, how you get the slingshot. You've got to puzzle out. That is to say, you will get a stick and you get an eye patch. And you've got to combine those two items together.
You have to pretend to be a pirate?
I'm like, I think the pirate joke comes up from that, or no, it was don't you think that's a bit childish? Like, and, not when I shot them with, with balls of uranium or something like that. Like, but the point is, that is an adventure game puzzle right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't get more adventure game logic than that kind of thing. Because because it makes sense along certain viewpoints, but it's not immediately clickable. It's not what a more straightforward action game would do. It would just have a slingshot. Or if you had to combine it, it'd be a rubber band and a stick, not an eye patch and a stick. Like, an eye patch and a stick, that's an adventure game. Because it's like, it's a thing that's elastic, but not something that would necessarily click your first thing. Unless you're like playing a point and click adventure game. Another example, the encounter with the doctor lady. You have to use something that's pointy in order to catch her off guard to drop her gun. And that basically involves stabbing yourself with a bit of razor wire. So, once again, this game operates on a lot more adventure game logic than you'd expect. Granted, there was some of that in Metal Gear Solid. Like, I'm looking at you and the Metal Gear Solid 1 and the transforming metal puzzle. Ugh. I mean, that was more annoying than necessarily complicated. But that's a rant for another day. At any rate, so this game will clock in at $20, at least on the normal price. It's got the big boombox soundtrack for $7.99. The creator pack comes free. And the bundle is the Undeluxe edition, $24.90. And there's the Unepic Game Collection at $51.12. We leave that out since it contains games that were for you that we have not covered. I guess in this case, it would be Ghost 1.0. I actually haven't reviewed that. Though, as I recall, Unepic was reviewed by Twilight Winter, who has retired from the group. Anyway, so is this game worth $20 to $25? I would say a most definite yes. One of the better games I played this year. Once again, I'm disappointed I didn't have more time to play with it. But it's kind of the issue when you have like 2 or 3 or even 4 games going at any given time. Plus, I'm busy working on other aspects of the show. Research or contacting people or finding new people. The time is allocated to all sorts of things. Anyway, so any other questions, comments, or concerns over UnMetal here?
I think I'm good.
Right. Petty?
I'm good.
All right. So, yeah, that'll about do it for UnMetal here. Be sure to tune in after the break, as Petty will be reviewing. Oops, sorry, that's the wrong one. Here we go. I Love Finding Pups Collector's Edition.